Hello and welcome to another Head Honcho interview series. My name's Gavin Houchell. I'm delighted today to be joined by David Wallace, Managing Director of MAURI ANZ, part of George Weston Foods. Now David joined the business back in 2011 as Group CFO and then in 2014 moved into the Managing Director role of ANZ MAURI. Prior to GWF, David spent a number of years as Group Strategy Director at Lion Nathan National Foods and as the Finance Director for the Australian beer business. So thank you and welcome for joining us, David.
Thank you.
So David, many people will be familiar with George Weston Foods or perhaps the Lion brands, but perhaps you can expand a little bit more on MAURI ANZ for us.
Sure. Well, George Weston Foods is actually a subsidiary of Associated British Foods, which is a listed company in the UK. I think it's in the top 25 on the FTSE. And George Weston Foods is the Australian-New Zealand subsidiary of that business. And within George Weston Foods, there's actually 4 business units, including Tip Top Bakeries, Don Small Goods, and the MAURI business. And the MAURI business is effectively a bakery ingredients business together with an animal nutrition business.
Okay. And how big is that business in the scale and geographies?
So MAURI has, we have 15 sites, including our head office. There's 650 people, and we have 3 divisions within the MAURI business. We've got the Australian bakery ingredients business, the New Zealand bakery ingredients business, and our animal nutrition business. And across the 14 manufacturing sites, we've got a mix of flour mills, yeast manufacturing facilities, ingredients mixing plants, and also animal nutrition plants.
And as MD, what sits in your portfolio in terms of, I guess, structure or?
So I have a general manager of New Zealand, a general manager of animal nutrition, and then for the Australian bakery ingredients business, I have functional directors that report directly into me. And it's a great team, and we've been on a journey. And one of the things that we've really focused on is creating something new and different in the marketplace that really trying to understand what's important to our customers and how we can help our customers grow their business. And by doing that, we create value for our customers, and ultimately that creates value for us. And I think that's a real different approach to the marketplace versus where we have been in the past, and arguably versus some of our competitors. So that real customer centricity, lining every single person up within the organisation to focus on the external environment, and regardless of whether you're in finance, people and performance, operations, sales and marketing, whatever it may be, that real focus on the external customer and what role do you play in helping add value to the customer, I think has created something quite exciting within our business that people aspire to and helps them really focus on how they can really make a difference.
Great. And David, how did your early career set you up for success into a MD role?
So I think I've always aspired just to be the best I can be. I've always been interested in general management, but not sort of driven to be an MD per se, just driven to make the most of whatever I've got. And I'm reasonably curious, so when I was in my sort of early years in my career, I did a lot of different type roles, spent time in sales, strategy, commercial finance, corporate finance, a whole bunch of different things. So I think that sort of broad grounding was really valuable for me. And then when I moved into the finance director role for quite a number of years in the Australian business, I took a real commercial focus, and once again, that's sort of what floats my boat. So you've got to know the numbers, there's no doubt. Every finance role, you've got to know your numbers. But really leaning into those areas more broadly across the business, the cross-functional areas, and really leaning into 2 things that motivate me is people and strategy. So really focusing on those 2 areas. So I think, broad base of different experiences, wherever you can get them, but then when sort of more mainstream finance roles, finding ways to sort of spread my wings and get exposure across the broader business. And that was the same in the strategy role. Clearly when I was group strategy role at Lion, the remit was you had to be across a whole range of stuff. So I think those experiences and that approach, even in the group CFO role at George Weston Foods, really leaning into strategy and more commercial areas of the business, grounded in knowing the numbers, was what motivated me and what interests me, and I think that's a really good lead-in to give you one, greater appreciation and understanding of what's required in general management roles, but just makes the job a hell of a lot more satisfying, and it makes you a much more powerful and effective finance business partner if you take a real, I believe, if you take a real commercial bent.
Yeah, no, it sounds wise. Now, many divisional CFOs that I interact with talk a little bit about pathways of, do you go to a group CFO role, do you head into general management MD route? Yeah. From your experience, is there a right step first or a right pathway, and what have been some of the learns that you've obviously worn both hats?
Yeah. Well, I think I'm not sure if there's any right pathway. I think it really comes down to what motivates the individual, you know, what's the individual's preference, what their skill set is. I think that you could go to either Group CFO or a general management role. Clearly, the more experience you've got and the more movies you've seen, the better equipped you are in a general management role. I actually see that they're both really important leadership roles within an organisation, and I think the differences, or what's required, leadership's the first and foremost requirement in both those roles, those type of roles. But I think the Group CFO role, you actually don't have direct line authority across a whole bunch of key stakeholders. So it really is about sort of engaging and listening and really influencing and inspiring outcomes across the business. So that's sort of what's required, I believe, in a Group CFO role. Moving into a general management role, you do have line authority, but the big difference is you're responsible for a whole bunch of areas you don't actually have any experience in. Operations and quality and technical and all this sort of stuff. So even though you've got direct authority, it's the same experiences in the way of operating, I believe, that different but same in Group CFO role, because it is about listening and engaging and influencing and inspiring, because you don't have the technical expertise to lean. Well, you absolutely lean in, but you don't have the technical expertise to create a clear plan down into the detail within those technical areas. So different for both areas, but similar sort of approaches. It all comes down to leadership, really. So I don't think there's any right or wrong pathway. It's about what experiences you have and what you aspire to and what your skill set is.
Sounds great. A personal question. So now in the number one seat, what do you love most, and what do you fear most?
So the thing I love, and it's not just in the general management role. It's in all leadership roles I've had, the thing I love the most is the opportunity to engage with other people and support them in their own journeys. And we've all got development needs, every single one of us, and creating an environment where people feel comfortable and safe to open up and share what their development needs are. And then if I can help them on that journey and make a small contribution to helping them get traction on their development journey, then that really floats my boat. And I think if I can help others achieve what they want to achieve and what they aspire to, and be the best they can be, then that's really powerful. And I love that. And there's nothing more that I love than seeing people in my team fulfil their potential and grow and develop and really achieve and hit the targets and overachieve and do the same with their teams, etc. So that's the thing that I really love about. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning. What do I fear the most? I'm not sure that I fear anything from a leadership point of view. That's not to suggest that I'm fearless. A slight difference. As I said, we've all got development needs. I've got my own development needs. And there's areas that I'm more comfortable operating in and areas that I'm less comfortable. So I think for me, and I remember I did a negotiating course once by the Gap Partnership, and one of the sayings they've got, which has always stuck with me, is getting comfortable in the uncomfortable. And I think leaning into spaces where you don't feel comfortable, because that means you're actually growing and you're stretching yourself, etc., and having comfort in being able to do that, If you talk, that's much probably more in that space of, when you ask, what do I fear? It's more being uncomfortable and being willing to lean into those situations where you are uncomfortable, knowing that it's actually doing you good in terms of your personal growth and development. So yeah, I don't think fear would be the right word to apply to that.
Beautiful context. If I take you and I back to Hunter Street, the bar, going back probably 2003, 2004, we're probably having a beer. If you could give yourself some advice back then, what would it have been?
Wow, that is a long time ago.
I think the bar's gone now, by the way, sadly.
We'd most probably had a couple of beers as well. What advice would I give myself? I think there's another saying that's stuck with me. It's seek to understand before being understood, and that's really powerful. I think that I have a tendency to my natural bias is more in task. As opposed to people, even though I love the people space, and that's what I believe makes the most difference. You've got to have balance between both. But I've always been sort of, let's get on and get it happening and move quite quickly. And that's been one of my key development needs over the many years is actually slowing down and seeking to understand from others. And I think one of the key lessons I've had over that period of time is surrounding yourself with quite a diverse, capable group of people, but then creating an environment where you're very inclusive and people feel comfortable to be open and honest and share their point of view. And I think that seeking to understand before being understood, understanding other people's points of view, having empathy for their position, looking at an issue from so many different perspectives. I think that's a really important attribute for a leader to focus on and develop, and it creates so much value on multiple fronts. I think that if you be very inclusive and have a whole bunch of points of view on an issue, you're going to get a better business outcome. There's absolutely no doubt about it. I think also the individual feels more valued because they're participating in creating something and creating a solution. So that results in better engagement from the individual. And I also think it actually creates and builds the individual's capability. So having a debate on an issue and really understanding, will help me understand why do you think that, and what about this, and how would you tackle that? Those type of conversations not only engage them and build a better business outcome, but it actually builds the capability of the individuals involved and all of those participating in the conversation, because people then start to join dots that they may not have previously seen, and it helps develop their commercial acumen, and mine as well in the process. So I think if there was one word of advice I would have given myself, is slow down a little bit, spend more time seeking out other people's points of view because of all these multiple benefits that you get of it.
Good to hear, good to hear. Well, it's been great to see your journey, and I'm sure things will go from strength to strength for the business as well with you at the helm. So thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Gavin.
Thanks, David.